All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue with this. We have 3 copies. There's that copies of 4 and 65 hundredths. So this is basically telling me I'm going to do 3 times 4 and 65 hundredths. So I'm going to draw that model again. Leave some space down at the bottom so that we can write our answers in, and then also up at the top. So I'm going to put my 3 over here because that's what I'm going to be multiplying each of those different place values of. So here I have 4 ones plus 6 tenths plus 5 hundredths. Okay, so what I can do here is I know I've got 3 times 4, so I'm going to write 3 times 4. This time I'm not necessarily going to label this, and you're going to see how I'm going to write this over here when we're able to do this. So right now I'm going to put 3 times, and instead of writing 6 tenths, I'm just going to write that in that decimal form, which is 0.6. Okay, same thing with this one. I'm going to do 3 times, and instead of writing out the 5 hundredths, I'm just going to put it in that decimal form. So that when I come to this, now I've got 3 times 4 is going to give me 12. I'm going to add 3 times 6 tenths. Well, 3 times 6 is going to give me 18. That's going to give me 18 tenths. So here's my place value chart. 18 tenths. Remember, tenths is where I'm going to be ending. 18 tenths is written like 1.8. So I'm going to go ahead and put this here. And then I'm going to do 3 times 5 hundredths, which 3 times 5 is going to give me 15. So I have 15 hundredths. So I'm going to erase this 15 hundredths. So remember, I'm going to end in that hundredths column, and it's 15 hundredths. That is how I write that in decimal form. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to line it up. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add this 0.00 after, just so that I can line this all up equally. So I'm going to start with 12, and I'm going to add that 1 and 8 tenths, and I'm going to add this 15 hundredths. And I'm going to add that 0 here just so that I can have everything nice and pretty. 0 plus 5 is 5. 0 plus 8 plus 1 is 9. Just bring that decimal down. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then 1 plus 0 is 1. So your answer is 13 and 95 hundredths. Okay. This one, I've got 4 times as much as 20 and 75 thousandths. So I'm going to do 4 times 20 and 75 hundredths. Now this one's going to be a little bit different because I'm not only going to put 3 place values places, I actually need to go ahead and put 5 of them. Okay. Now, I actually don't have to put 5. Okay, and this is where you kind of might be a little bit confused, because if I do 4 times 0, 4 times 0 is going to give me 0. So I don't need to write anything for my ones. 4 times 0 tenths is still going to give me 0. So you could split it into 5s if you want to, but I'm actually not going to. I'm going to split it into the 3. I'm going to put my 4 out here. Well, I'm going to look here. I have 2 tens. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put 2 tens. And then I'm going to skip this 0, because no matter what, whatever I'm going to multiply times 0 is going to give me 0. If I'm going to add 0, the number's going to stay the same, so it's not necessarily going to change. So I'm going to come over here to that hundredths, and I'm going to have 7 hundredths. And then I'm going to have 8 thousandths. Okay, so if I were to come here, now I'm going to do 4 times 2 tens. 4 times 2 tens is going to give me, oops, sorry, I worked a little bit ahead. I'm going to do 4 times 2 tens. I'm going to do 4 times 7 hundredths. And then I'm going to do 4 times 8 thousandths. Now this one, I did write it out just because if I were just to put 4 times 2 and you would put 8, that wouldn't be right, because 2 tens actually means what? If you said 2 tens actually equals 20, that is correct. So if I did 4 times 2 tens, I would have 8 tens. And if I were to write this 8 tens is what? It's 80. So I'm going to write 80 here. And then I'm going to add 4 times 700. So 4 times 7 is going to be 28. And remember, it's in that hundredths. So 28 is going to go right here. So I'm going to write that as 28 hundredths is what I'm adding. And then I've got 4 times 8 is going to give me 32 thousandths. And remember, it wants to be in that thousandths column. So here's that 32, and I've got to add that 0 there, okay? So I'm going to write this here, add this. Now I'm going to add it up. This time when I'm going to write 80, I'm actually going to write it out 3 decimal places because it is that thousandths column. And just so that it will add up, line up nicely to add up nicely, it just helps me a little bit better. I'm going to add that 0 there. So 0 plus 0 is 2. 8 plus 3 is 11. Regroup that 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. Just bring that decimal down. 0. Bring down that 8. So this is your answer for that problem. Okay. We're going to take a look at what Miles did incorrectly. So he incorrectly gave the product of 7 times 2 and 6 tenths is 14 and 42 hundredths. We're going to use the place value chart to kind of show his mistake. So let's look here. Let's actually do this correctly. So if I were to do 7 times 2 and 6 tenths, okay, I've got 2 place values, so I'm just going to divide it in half. I'm going to do 7, and then I'm going to expand this out. So I have 2 ones plus 6 tenths. Okay, so if I do 7 times 2 ones, so 7 times 2 ones, and then 6 times, sorry, that should be 7 times 6 tenths. Okay, 7 times 2 ones is going to be 14. And then I'm going to add 7 times 6. Well, 7 times 6 is 42. I have 42 tenths. And look what he did. He said 42 hundredths. If I were to come back to my place value chart and I were to write 42 tenths, remember tenths is going to be where that place value is going to end. So I've got 42. It's 4.2. So I'm going to add plus 4 and 2 tenths. So if I come over here and add these together, his answer should be 18 and 2 tenths. So what he did is instead of writing this correctly as 42 tenths like this, he actually wrote it as 42 hundredths. So that's why that is important, why you know that when you're writing this, you can't have 42 tenths. You can't have that 42 in that one place value. You do have to regroup. So this one's going to be just a little bit different. We have to do 2 parts of this problem. It says Mrs. Zamir wants to buy 8 protractors and some erasers for her classroom. She has $30. We're going to use that in a little bit. It says if the protractors each cost $2.65, I want to know how much she has left to buy the erasers. So the first thing we need to do is how much money is she going to spend on those protractors? So I'm going to multiply 8 times $2.65. So I'm going to put this into my area model. Okay, I'm going to split it into 3 because I've got those 3 place values. I'm going to write my 8 here. Now I'm going to expand this out. So this is going to be 2 ones plus 6 tenths plus 5 hundredths. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do 8 times 2. And this one I'm going to do again where I'm just going to put it in that decimal form so we can see that. Oops, 8 times. Excuse me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just basically multiply these and then we're going to add them together. 8 times 2 is going to be 16. 8 times 6 tenths is going to give me 48 tenths. So remember, don't do the same thing that the guide in the problem before us did. I have 48 tenths. I'm going to do 4 and 8 tenths. Excuse me, I need a drink of water. So it's going to be 4 and 8 tenths. Should have brought my water with me. Sorry, guys. Now I've got 8 times 500. So I know 8 times 5 is 40. So I have 40 hundredths. So Remember, I want to end in that hundredths column. And I've got 40 hundredths. So I'm going to go ahead and put 40 hundredths. So now I'm going to add this up. So I'm going to say that one is 16. I've added those decimals so that I can add these numbers nicely. So 0, let's see here, 8 plus 4 is 12. Regroup that one. 6 plus 4 is 10, plus 1 more is 11. I'm going to regroup that one. 1 plus 1 is 2. So she's going to spend $21.20 on those protractors. To find out how much money she's going to have left to buy the erasers, I want to take this $30 and I want to subtract this $21.20 to figure out how much money she's going to have. Now I can do 0 minus 0, but I can't do 0 minus 2. So I need to come over here. Can't borrow from that 0, so I'm going to have to start borrowing from this 10. So I'm going to turn that into a 2. That'll turn into a 10. Well, I need to borrow to come over here to help with that number. That's going to turn into a 9, and now I've got my 10. I don't need to regroup anything here because I've already done that 0 minus 0. So 10 minus 2 is 8. And then 9 minus 1 is 8. And then 2 minus 2 is 0. I don't have to put that 0, but she will have $8.80 left to spend on erasers.